Explanation of Ruby Sanctum for ranged DPS. Turbo mode with birds chirping in the background. First you enter from here, from the portal. You will go and gather up here and gather up in the middle. Then tank will usually start pulling some ads and kill them. You'll just murder them, no big deal. Then you'll go to the left side. There will be a boss here, there will be like a cliff, and a boss standing like over here near a tree. And usually the hunter will pull the boss, but it can be somebody else who pulls him, and pull him down to this wall. And you'll turn him towards the wall, and then the ranged DPS, you can just start hitting the boss. At some point during the fight on 10 men, the boss will split into two, and it will be like a copy, and the off tank will pull the copy away and put him, somewhere else, and the healers will heal him. But you need to keep targeting the main guy who will be turned towards the boss. You will lose your targeting of him, so you'll need to retarget him and reapply your dots and whatever the fuck it is you need to reapply. On 10 men, he only splits one time, and on 25 men he splits 2 times, in which case the other off tank will pull the copy away to the other direction, and it will, it will get healed by the other healer. Sometimes one off tank is fat enough to tank both copies, but I don't think that happens almost ever. And you'll just keep again targeting the main guy until he's dead. You will also get some sort of debuff on you, but you will just ignore it. There's no mechanics to worry about this fight except attacking the main guy, and that's all. That's all you need to do. After this, after you kill the boss, you get a Frosty, then you need to move to the other side where there's a dragon with wings and shit. It's just like, whee, dragon. This dragon does not tail swipe, nor does it cleave. Not that it really matters for range DPS. There's a big pool here, like I don't know, like that. And at the start, you can just position. Oh, no, look. You can position yourself just about anywhere as a range DPS, but it is. You'll find out soon that it's better to position yourself closer to the pool. But at the start, you can position yourself, I guess, something like this. Just attack the dragon. She doesn't have a tail swipe or anything like that, so it doesn't really matter where you stand as long as it's not, I guess, in front of her. But I don't even think she has a cleave. Anyway, you just stand behind her. You just DPS her down. Blah blah blah. You shoot her. You do all your stuff. At some point during the encounter, I think it's cooldown based, she will fly up here and she will spit fire. During this, while she's flying here, while she's flying to the water, you can just keep DPSing her. This is your DPS come part as the ranged. You can just keep damaging her. But as soon as she, spits the fire on you on the raid, some people will get a debuff on them. Now this debuff makes you, after a short period, like 3 seconds or 4, I don't know how many seconds, but it makes you kind of lose control of your character, like you're blinded by a rogue, and deal damage to yourself and people around you. So when you get the debuff, you need to get out of the raid. Just stand somewhere where people aren't, and when it's over, you can go back and just DPS her as normal. Sometimes there will be a DK, he'll cast Frostpath, in which case you can stand on the water, and when it's over, you can just walk back to the raid and keep DPSing the dragon. Sometimes the damage is high enough that she will do this only once, and in which case, yeah, you just DPS her down. But more often than not, she will fly up again, just DPS her, she'll spit fire, you get a debuff, you move out of the raid. If not, you stay in the raid and you DPS her, and that's it. If you're planning to do this on your hunter at some point, she also does an enrage occasionally, quite often she'll turn big and red, and you just need to trank it away. You need to do this, otherwise she does a lot of damage. Now, actually, it's not that bad. She does like this AoE explosion thingy, which deals some damage, and if you have a very big healer, that he can out heal it. And you don't even need to be that big. You can just out heal it, so it's not that big of a deal, that enrage, and you don't need to be scared of it most of the time. I have almost never seen people wipe on these bosses. The next part is going to be up here. Now you will have cleared the ads on this side, and this is usually when the raid moves like here through this. There will be a cliff kind of like this, and there will be a boss here, and there will be like eggs here kind of like this. Decks don't do anything, they're just doodads, but just for positioning you will move, and you will put the entire raid here at first, so you don't pull the boss, and then the tank will move in, and he'll start, well, he'll just tank the boss, and you will just DPS the boss. That's all you do. DPS the boss. At some points there's ads. At some points there's ads that come in from the both directions, but the off tank will take both of those ads and pull them away, so here or here. In 10 minute 25 it's the same. They deal some AoE explosion, like, you know, all the time they deal some damage, but the healer should be able to out heal that, and you just keep DPSing the boss. Occasionally the boss casts a fear on everyone, but if your raid leader is not a noob, he will have a shaman in the main group who will have a tremor totem, and it will, you know, unfear them, and you keep DPS, and there's nothing you need to worry about at all except just DPSing the boss. Again, it's very simple boss, just DPS, unleash everything you have upon him. I don't think he has a cleave. He does have cleave armor, which is a debuff he places on the main tank, which reduces their armor by 20% for 30 seconds, and, you know, that stacks up, which is why tanks have to switch taunts every once in a while. Or if you have a prot pala, he hops himself and removes the hop to reset the stacks. And you just DPS him down, and that's it. And then you move back, because at this point, wait, we need to reset this image like this. So, Hellion will at this point spawn here. He's a big old dragon, so I'm not going to actually draw the dragon. Yeah, he has wings. He's a very big dragon, and you will move down from that boss, and you'll go sit over here. This is almost always where the raid positions itself. The tank will move over here. Now you'll do some rebuffs, some ready checks, yada yada, and then actually need to explain this whole fight. The tank moves in, and he tanks Hellion, usually in this direction. He just keeps him in the same way. You need to make sure that the tank actually gets the aggro, or that there's a hunter and a rogue. They, you know, burst the dragon and tot or MD the tank. If there's no rogue or hunter, you need to be very careful with your button of anger, with your warlock button, because if you take aggro, this dragon does cleave, and he will wipe the fucking raid if he gets to hit you. He will tank it. You will stand somewhere over here. You just DPS the boss. You can be a little bit closer as ranged, by the way. You can be basically near his side as ranged and just DPS him down. Damage him. There will be a ring of fire all around the arena at this point. Just a constant ring of fire. You can't exit the area. And you'll just DPS him, blah blah blah. Sometimes you will get a debuff on yourself, again, just like with this boss over here, Except this debuff, when it gets dispelled, it creates a circle, a damaging circle, which deals damage the longer you stand in it. So if you get the debuff, you need to run out to the edge of the arena and get it dispelled. You can't move back into the raid unless it is dispelled. When it's dispelled, you'll see a big circle around you, and then you can move back. But until that, you can't move back. If a healer is fucking up and he's not dispelling you, you don't move back. Just stand there, scream, yell, dispel me, whatever. But don't move back, because that will wipe the raid. And if you have big enough damage, if you have some carries, and you die because the healer is very late with dispelling or whatever, then you can still finish the boss. Sometimes. But usually you just get dispelled and you run back to the raid and you keep dealing damage to Hellion. Now at some point, cooldown based, Hellion will cast a meteor. I don't know, he also says something to announce the fact that there's a meteor coming. But there will be a big indicator on the ground, and after like 5 seconds or so, a big meteor will crash down and fire streaks will come from it. Like, there will be like fire streaks on the ground that deal damage to anyone who's standing in them. When this happens, when the meteor comes down, the entire raid will move, and this can be confusing the first time you do Hellion. It will move through Hellion to the other side. You'll just literally go through him. Just make sure not to go like this somehow, because you'll get cleaved and you die. But just move through him. You can dot him. You can smack. Don't smack him, actually. Don't hit Hellion with your melees, because Hellion has a parry haste, which means if he parries you, he gains extra attack speed or something for the next few hits, and then the tank gets bursted. So don't melee the boss. The other melees will be hitting him. That's actually not something they should be doing. They should always stand at max attack range so that they don't give Hellion parry haste. But not relevant for you, you're ranged. When you move to the other side, you'll once again continue DPSing. If you get the debuff, you run out, you get dispelled, a big red circle will appear, and you move back to the raid and you continue DPSing. Sometimes you can get a little unlucky where a meteor will spawn as soon as you get the debuff. Now in this case, you can do a couple of things. You can either run towards this edge and just keep DPSing Hellion from this side, and you'll just need you'll need to, oh no, you actually can't usually run back to this side. I can do that, I just remember, because I'm a priest. I can dispel myself. So when I dispel myself, I can run back and keep DPSing the boss from this side, but you can't. So if you get the debuff when a meteor is happening, you keep running with the raid to the side, and then you run somewhere and you get dispelled and you run back again. This continues this dance. Now at some point, is it 30? Is it 66%? Maybe it's like, I think it's 75%. At 75%, Hellion will switch to phase 2. In this part, he will, wait, let me redraw the circle again. He will become untargetable in this realm, as it's so to say, and there will be a portal in the middle, and you will enter it. But first, this is very important, first you must let the tank enter it. You have to wait a couple of seconds. Also, usually there will be like a meteor will have come down at this point, so there might be streaks of fire and shit. Just stand out somewhere where you don't get hit by the streaks of fire, and then when the tank has entered, just give him like 5 seconds. Hellion will say some quote, and just wait 5 seconds, or just look when you see someone else enter that isn't the tank. Because what will happen if you enter before the tank does into the portal and you die in the Shadow Realm, Hellion will reset, and then the whole raid will reset. because there's nobody there for him to attack in the Shadow Realm, so he'll reset. So it's very important that you let the tank go in first. At this point, when you enter, you will be in the Shadow Realm, and there's also, you know, some sort of shadow fire circle around the arena. You can't exit it, and the boss will be turned a little bit. I think he'll be turned into this direction, something like this, for a certain part that will be coming up. So let's see here. Let's remove this. Let's draw the big old dragon. He'll be turned a lot of the times something like this, to this direction. Still in the middle, by the way. Wait, let me actually position Alien. He'll be turned. The tank will be sitting here tanking him. You will be standing a lot of the times on this side, and you'll just DPS. In this phase, Hallion will also place a debuff on you, and you need to run out with a debuff just as in phase 1, get dispelled, and it will create a shadowy circle on the ground, and then you need to run back to the raid. This shadowy circle pulls people in, so you really need to be away from the raid when you get dispelled. I mean, you always need to be away from the raid when you get dispelled, but extra important here because of this pull-in shenanigans. Oh, also, the longer you don't get dispelled, I forgot to say this, in both the Fire Realm and the Shadow Realm, the longer you don't get dispelled, the bigger this debuff becomes when you do get dispelled. So if it took like 30 seconds to get dispelled, the debuff will be like huge. Sometimes, and this will be not your fault, I have to mention this, sometimes before you even get to run outs, some healer will be bad and he'll dispel you. You know, somewhere, yeah, very early. You can't do anything about that, it's just a bad healer. Then, you know, you have to adjust and move out of the circle and DPS Hallion somewhere else. Now, in this phase, you actually need to position yourself near, this is Hallion, this is his legs. Let's say those are his legs. You need to position yourself in most raids. In 10-man 25, most raids, you need to position near the hind leg. You position near the hind leg, this one. Because there are 2 orbs circling the arena. These orbs circle like so and like so. And at some point, these orbs will fire a big old laser, a big old cutter, through the entire arena. This cutter will one-shot you. You know, almost always it will one-shot you. Some people who are fat enough can take a tick or something, but Claudies and whatever usually get one-shot by this. Now it's the job of the tank to, and this is the hard part. This is the only really hard part of the encounter. It's important for the tank to have positioned Hallion at the start in such a way that when the cutter starts, it cuts like this, or something like this, through the arena. Now this cutter keeps moving during this phase, so the tank, oh, no. Right. Wait, give me a second. So the tank will keep moving the boss in this direction, and you will need to move with the boss and keep, you know, standing on his hind leg, avoiding the cutter, more or less. Then the tank will position the boss in such a way, usually somewhere here, that the next time the cutter starts, it's once again like this. So you'll be standing at this point, this will be his hind leg, you'll be standing somewhere here, the tank will be here, and then the cutter will come through, and the same thing continues. You move here, then you move there, then you move here, then you move there. During all of this, you still get these debuffs, these circles, so you need to move out. Sometimes it will happen when a cutter starts, so you need to make sure to pay attention and move now something like this. This was actually really bad that I drew it this way at the start. You never want to move like this, because if the cutter starts and you're like somewhere here getting dispelled, this part moves much faster than this part, so it can catch up to you and kill you, which will make the raid leader very angry. And he'll notice that. Sometimes you get kicked from the raid, which would be really sad because you'll be saved to the instance. So yeah, just have to make sure that when you get the debuff, you run away to the edge. You know, you get dispelled and you run back. And you continue doing damage on the hind leg. Now here's a little annoying tidbit. Usually you don't have to deal with this, but I'll just mention it. But usually you don't have to deal with this. Like in many raids, I have not encountered this. In some raids, tanks position the boss that the cutter goes like this, which means you're standing at the front leg instead of the hind one. But this almost never happens. So usually don't worry about this. Now if the tank is really bad, you'll notice this because he won't know where to position Hellion when the cutter starts, and you'll get like a cutter through the center of Hellion, and you will just die a lot of the time. This is not your fault if this happens. Just tank that is inexperienced, and it's very unlucky because it's really hard to teach the tank where to stand in shadow and where to put him, and then you know you're gonna have to go through this wipe fiesta where they're trying to figure out how to position Hellion. This is very annoying, and I've had to deal with this many times. This is why you sometimes see at Hellion raids in global, you know, searching for a tank at Hellion, and nobody wants to enter those because you're missing 3 Frosties from the previous bosses. Anyway, to continue. Right, so this continues to go on, and then at some point 50% HP, I think it is, Hellion goes into phase 3. Now in this phase, at this point there will be portals opened around him, like 4 portals I think, and you'll need to enter it. There will be at this point 2 what's it called? Realms, the Fire Realm and the Shadow Realm. You are a ranged DPS, so you will go into the portal, back into the Fire Realm. It's the same one as the first one that I drew, and the exact same thing will need to happen in there as that you did in phase 1. The exact same, you know, standing on one side, dealing damage, avoiding the debuff by moving to the edge, getting dispelled, moving back, avoiding the meteor, moving through Hellion when the meteor happens, etc. and so forth. And the melees will keep being in this realm and doing their thing. I'm not going to explain to you. It's basically the same thing. They will just need to circle around and keep doing the exact same thing. But there's one notable difference. There will be a counter at the top of the raid, which will be like Hellion's corporeality, and it will be at 50% at the beginning. This number goes down if your side deals too much damage to the boss compared to the other one. So if you deal too much damage, the number goes to 40%, and on the other side it goes to 60%. This means that the other side Hellion deals more damage, which is more stress on the tank and the healer. And Shadow Hellion, also I forgot to mention, the Shadow Hellion deals constant AoE shadow damage. So if Shadow Hellion deals more damage, the whole raid takes more damage, and that's a lot of stress on the healer. So if you see this number go down on your side, on Fire side, you need to stop all DPS. Just stop it. Don't cast any bolts, don't recast your dots, don't do anything. Just don't fuck your recount number. Nobody cares about your DPS. Just stop DPSing once you see this number go down. Usually at this point the raid leader will also yell, outside, stop DPS, you know, and you just stop. When it goes back to 50, you immediately start pumping again. You just start pumping. If it goes to 60, you really start pumping. But if it goes to 50, you immediately start, because the other side obviously won't have stopped DPSing. So If you are too slow on your pickup of DPS, then they will go to 40% and you'll go to 60%. So you need to keep paying attention to that. If your side goes to 60% and up, then you know, if you get hit by meteor, you will die. Or if it's like 70, you will die because it will deal a lot more damage, and the fire streaks will deal more damage, and the debuff explosions will deal more damage. Also, a Hellion tail swipe. So if you, when you're moving in fire, if you're moving through Hellion not centered, he will tail swipe, you'll get stunned. It's not a big deal usually, but it can get you into trouble if the meteor was positioned badly, because the meteor is cast at someone's location. I also forgot to mention this. So sometimes in fire, just ignore, you know, the fact that this is Shadow Realm, pretend that this is Fire Realm. Sometimes in Fire Realm, someone will have run out to get himself dispelled, and Hellion will cast a meteor at them over here. Now at this point, you don't actually have to run through Hellion, because the meteor will be here, and there will be some streaks or whatever, but you know, you don't have to run. But sometimes the raid still runs through because they're inexperienced, or they just know, oh, when a meteor is cast, I have to run through. So if your raid moves, you move with them. So yeah. And then you just keep DPSing Hellion down until he's dead. If you die in phase 2 in Shadow Realm, you'll be transported to the Fire Realm. Like, your body will be in the Fire Realm. So if you die in the Shadow Realm, you can't be B-Rest. So you have to think about that. But in phase 3, if they make it through phase 2 and they get to phase 3, if there's Boomy or Dudu or Ardudu in fire, they can B-Res you again. However, Ardudus are almost always in Shadow because they're very mobile healers and AoE blanketers, so it's very good for Shadow. And yeah. So just don't die, basically. And that's all you need to know for Hellion. This explanation was kind of long, but, you know, kind of necessary. So hope you learned something. Bye-bye.